We love you!
Hello and welcome to Tribe Talk, the Galway Hurling podcast, with me, Patrick Earley and David Connors, where each week we'll discuss and divulge all the goings-on in Galway Hurling. We'll be taking an in-depth look at the club scene and of course focusing on inter-county, in this, Shane O'Neill's first year at the helm, all of which we'll do in the company of some special guests and former Galway greats. So do come along and join us on Tribe Talk, Galway's dedicated hurling podcast.
Well, you thought you were rid of us, and we thought we were ready for 2020, but no, not quite. Put out a message last week to say we were finished for the year, and then of course the call comes in that our under 20s are getting going this Friday night. So we're back with a preview of Galway's under 20 Leinster quarter final with Laois on Friday night. I think, first of all, obviously big disappointment when the seniors went out there 2 weekends ago, but brilliant to have another game to look forward to. And there really isn't going to be an off season, be it for supporters or for players this year. So that's brilliant, and we'll be hoping for an extended run in the under 20 championship this year. David, starting off with Laois Friday night. First things first, great that the game's getting going ahead, isn't it?
Mighty, and great that we were just touching it there before we came on. Great it's on YouTube as well, because I won't be going myself. I know you're going, but I won't actually get to go myself. So I was disappointed I wouldn't get to see them first day out. But great that it's getting off, because I think I was reading just quotes from Jeff Linsky there in the Connaire Tribune this week, and he was saying he was just saying these lads missed out at minor because the change of age to under 17 that time. So it's great for these lads. Jesus, they must have thinking what's our luck at intercounty hurling, but to get the opportunity to represent Galway, because let's truth be told, like, not all these fellas are going to go on and play senior for Galway. It's just not possible. So it's a great opportunity for them, to represent their county, and I suppose put themselves in a shop window in a sense, really, as well, isn't it? Because we're going to see plenty probably of change maybe in the next couple of years in the Galway setup. So really looking forward to it now. And Laois first day out as well. It's Galway didn't get this warm-up game like last year, I suppose, without being disrespectful to Laois. It is probably a warm-up. Like Galway are 1-33 in the bookies, like the shortest of short prices. They're Laois, I think they haven't. I just looking back over there. I think their manager said their manager in the Lions. He's originally from Ballinasloe, and I think he was in the Galway under 21 setup. I think he played in the under 21 team in 1987. So shout out to him as well. So, but I think they hadn't won a game in Leinster in 7 or 8 years, I believe. So it's daunting from that perspective. And without being harsh, Galway didn't get the game against your Carlos or your Laois last year. They had to face the Kinney cold, and maybe that came up against them. So just getting the chance to get a bit of preparation in, we'll say, and getting a dry run at it, and maybe you learn a lot from lads as well, don't you? Even no matter what game it is, a competitive game can tell you a lot, and there could be a lad that comes on the next day as a sub hypothetically, and he could have put his hand up for a starting jersey the next day. So really looking forward to it. I'm sure you are yourself. You're looking forward to getting down there and getting a look at them in person, in the flesh.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think as you touched on there a few minutes ago about the under 17 and the under 18, the changeover, and a lot of these lads were the ones that suffered. So just, I suppose, clarify that for some people, because it's very confusing, and even trying to think up the squad and the team that was going to be named this week, and you had very little to go on, really, because you're thinking back to the minor team 3 years ago was the team that obviously won the All-Ireland the same day as Galway at Waterford in the senior, but that was under 18, so that team was gone. There's obviously just a few members that were left, but it's tricky enough to to think about it that way, and that changeover was messy enough for a lot of players and squads. But so that year was the last year of under 18, and then next year switched to under 17. But also in 2017, they ran a separate under 17 All Ireland competition, which, truth be told, it got absolutely no traction or attention from any media circles or anything. But Galway exited at the semi-final stage, and they would 5 or 6 members of the under 18 team should have been on it, but they weren't actually released to start the game. So I think a lot of them came on in the second half, all right. Yeah, John Fleming, Kevin Killeen, Mark Gill all came on in the second half. But that aside, everyone that was on the team were not members of the under 18 squad. So a lot of those lads missed out on their year minor as a result, and just run down through the team that played that day, and even you compare the team that played that day in that 117 game against Corktown Thurles to the team that's named for tomorrow night. There's only, I think, it's 3 or 4 survivors is all. So you have Darach Fahy in goals, Owen O'Donnell, Simon Thomas, and TJ Brennan were your full back line. Half back line with Dylan Shaughnessy, Conor Lee, and David Jordan. Midfield, you Jim O'Brien and Craven. Half forward line, Nathan Erner and Andy Egan, and the full forward line, Mark Kennedy, Jack Egan, and Niall Cohen. And then obviously John Fleming came in Killeen, Mark Hill, Adam Clark all came on. You would have had Conor Walsh would have been a survivor from that as well, but he didn't feature that night. But of that team, I would say Darach Fahy is there still. TJ Brennan, Dylan Shaughnessy, Mark Kennedy's a sub, and John Fleming starting, and Cayman Killeen and Mark Hill are subs as well. So huge turnover in three short years really when you think of the team that's named for tomorrow night. We'll go through that in detail in a while, but I think it goes to show the importance of club form and playing senior club rather than what you've done previously in inter-county underage setups.
That's for sure, and I think we were trying to pick a team beforehand, and in fairness to you, you'd a lot greater success than I did. I give you credit there. Mine was a mile off in projected, but just goes to show you probably had a bit more insight in the club than I did. So, but yeah, no, it's a huge turnover. It's very interesting because, like, just on paper, it's to perform very in the club campaign this year, isn't it? Really, that have kind of held on, that have grabbed the starting jersey and held on. And I was just reading there as well. I think it's 9 of the starting 15 are eligible next year as well, which is just it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. I suppose in probably Jeffrey Linsky's mantra will say, if you're young enough, or if you're good enough, or if you're whatever, that one, you're good enough, you're old enough, as they say. Like, so they're not holding on to the senior players there, or the lads in their final year aren't clearly getting any preferential treatment, we'll say, just because they're in their final year of hurling, which is probably good to see. It's a very strong looking team though, isn't it, Patrick? Like, it's a lot of lads, as we just mentioned there, that had fantastic club campaigns.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's good to see the club form being rewarded, because if you look through the team, as you say, 9 survivors from will be there. There'll be 9 of the team that starts the next day will be there again next year, and equally, like, there's lads who started last year that aren't starting this year, which is it's interesting in itself. Mark Gill and Mark Kennedy are the two there. Both started against Kilkenny last year and can't make the team this year, so that goes to show club form is key in the management team's eyes, and I think it's the right way to go about it. No question at all about it, because in fairness, Mark Kennedy, for example, hadn't the best year for Clarinbridge this year, and was definitely a better player for the seniors in the previous year or two. We haven't seen Mark Kennedy since Clarinbridge's last senior championship game, so he could have been burning up in training for all we know, but equally, maybe he hasn't been doing it to the same degree as he would have done previous years, and that's been obviously recognised in the team that's been picked. So I think it's the right way to go about it, and you've the likes of your midfield partnership with Ian McGlynn and Alex Connaire, 2 lads who were only on the under-17 team last year, and here they are both playing schools hurling as well earlier this year, and here they are after very good club campaigns, getting thrown in straight in at the deep end at this level. And to be honest, having played senior club hurling, you'd have no fear of lads either going into play at this level. So I think while we're on it, we'll go through the team and we'll have a look at it. So I suppose one interesting side note is our two goalies. You've Darach Fahy starting in goals and Paddy Rabbit the sub goalie. Neither of them are goalies with their clubs. Paddy Rabbit was obviously both inter-county minor goalies, but Darach Fahy is centre back for Ardrahan and Paddy Rabbit is full forward for Athenry, and he's probably the one not as long into his making that transition. He's probably about 2 years, you could say, as a full-time outfield hurler with the club, and he's really always been an outfield hurler with the club, so that's an interesting side note. But obviously two April goalies in their own right, but Darach's in goals. Then your full back line is Oisín, Salmon, TJ Brennan, both Clarinbridge, and TJ's captain this year, and Jason O'Donoghue with Gort. Looking at that line, obviously TJ has senior inter-county experience, which he's going to be a pivotal figure there for us. And equally, Jason O'Donoghue has 2 years senior hurling with Gort played, and Oisín Salmon is the one probably least experienced in that regard, in that his only start to kind of gain traction with the Clarinbridge seniors, and obviously a difficult team to break into, but in any case, a hugely capable cornerback and an exciting enough prospect for me going forward, David. And certainly I think you've a solid start there with that goalie and that full back line.
Absolutely. I think just in terms of TJ, he probably solves a bit of a problem there. I thought he might have been at 6, but looking down through the squad, probably you haven't a whole lot of options maybe at 3. So he's probably a big, strong, physical player. You'd imagine he'd be dominant there. I think one of Laois's best players would be their full forward, Mark Kinnessy, as well. So he'll probably be detailed to kind of shackle him. I think he scored 1-2 in the last game, and I think he's one of 3 players in an Eddie Brennan squad as well. Just on Jason O'Donoghue, while I touched on him, I suppose Matty Murphy showed huge faith in him this year. He was kind of operating a bit further out the field between maybe midfield, half back line and stuff like that. And I think was it against Cromwell, he was tasked with Mark and Tom Monaghan. Maybe I'm nearly sure that was the case anyway. Maybe I'm wrong, but
yeah, right. Sure.
That just goes to show the faith that they have in him. Like, so he's probably maybe not the most natural cornerback, but he's obviously a very athletic player and he's quick as well. So he probably has all the characteristics you need to make it as a cornerback, at inter-county level, particularly at under 20. So it'll be very interesting to see how they go. You touched on Oisín Salmon. Yeah, he looks like a great prospect anytime I saw him play. Like, he's plenty of experience with schools and stuff like that as well, and Galway minors. So yeah, huge. Like, I really like that line. I was very interested to see what the full back line would be in particular. So yeah, and just on goalkeepers in as well, I suppose arguably the best goalkeeper in the land plays outfield for his club as well in Owen Murphy. Like, so it can be beneficial to you at times as well, can't it? Like, because your touch is always going to be 100% sharp, and that maybe the type of ball a midfielder or half back line like to get as well. So yeah, no, it's an interesting say back 4 in that sense.
Absolutely, yeah. And onto the half-back line, for me, that's the line with the most intrigue about it, in that, you've Jim Kilcommins named it right half-back, which certainly neither of us would have predicted, and I don't think many people around the county would have predicted, unless you'd been sneaking in and watching the lads train. So you have Jim Kilcommins at 5, Adam Brett at 6, and Dylan Shaughnessy at 7. Dylan Shaughnessy there, definitely on club form, to be fair. He was outstanding all year for Loughrea in the half-back line. And equally so with Adam Brett, he made the switch back to wing back for Killimordaly this year, having come back into the fold after his cruciate injury, and really got himself into a right good shape, the best shape I've seen him in for 3 or 4 years anyhow, probably ever in reality, and hurled up a storm for Killimordaly, certainly in that position. And Kilcommins is the interesting one for me. We all know the blistering pace he possesses, and his minor year 2 years ago, he was devastating the right half forward, collecting balls in his own half back line, soloing up the length of the field and firing them over from the sideline. So it'll be very interesting to see how he goes in that position. And equally, I think Adam Brett, because still at the end of the day, he's had a good year with Killimordaly there, but still it's a kind of a fairly unfamiliar position for him in that regard. And because that minor team 2 years ago, it was Kilcommins at 10 and Adam Brett at 12. So that's certainly the line that I'm going to be most interested to see how they get on anyhow.
Yeah, I suppose in one sense, the fact that they have made the transition, I think we've loads of options in attack. Maybe we probably don't have as many defensively, we'll say. So maybe that's partly the reason why we've seen a couple of these transition. Now, Adam Brett isn't probably a real surprise. He was a defender this year for Killimordaly, as you said, whereas Kilcommins, I think, was operating in around midfield in attack for Annaghdown. So yeah, I'd be imagining Kilcommins will give him plenty of license to get forward, a la your Joseph Cooney against Tipperary, we'll say, both questions of the half back line or that half forward, should I say, whoever's marking him when they take to the field. So yeah, it's an interesting one. He won't be caught for pace anyway, we'll put it that way. But and he's striking on the run it's phenomenal. Like, when he was shooting in Croke Park, you didn't see him stopping, to set his feet to get the shot away. He was striking, practically would say going 80-90% of the pace he was. So yeah, it's a interesting one. It's one that you know probably you'd have you touched on there. You'd have the most intrigue about, and probably there will be the most question marks. You know, that probably will need to be answered in that line as well.
Absolutely, yeah, no question about it. And you know, the thing is, if they do come up trumps, I think, as you say, you have a lot of questions answered in that. We're fairly well stocked up in attack, as we'll get on to now in a second. But just before that, we already mentioned the midfield duo and two savage ball players and two really intelligent hurlers, you have to say. Certainly not the biggest men by any means in Ian McGlynn and Alex Connaire, but two seriously capable operators there in the middle of the field.
Oh, for sure. With the misfortune with Athenry Intermediates to play an in-form Ian McGlynn this year in the in the club championship, and just boss proceedings. You wouldn't think it was his first game at adult level, like just in the first competitive game. I'm sure he played challenges, obviously, but yeah, just boss proceedings. You know, real leader even out there, very vocal on the field as well. You know, he was captain for the minors the year before, but you could hear him telling us to calm down against us and, you know, keep the heads and keep the discipline, and very mature operator. I kind of thought just from looking at it on the sideline, and sure we don't need to say we touched on Alex Connaire so much in this year's podcast during the club campaign. One of the standout young players of the championship, will say, geez, so silky. It's a joy to watch him, like, you know, strike the ball. As you said, two incredible ball players. They'll have no problems there in midfield. Like I couldn't see, you know, despite their tender years, we'll say, you know, there's still plenty of time left in them, but there'll be no problems. You have huge faith in those two fellas, and as you said, the fact that they played senior this year at club, and they would have came up against some uncompromising individuals, would say, down through the competitions, that you'd have no fear of them at all. It's a very stylish line, like, you know. So they're obviously the linkmen between the defence and the forward unit there. So you'd have no question marks there. I'd be very confident that those two fellas bringing big performances, not even just against Laois, but maybe perhaps against Kilkenny if everything goes to plan, we'll say, on Friday evening.
Definitely, I agree. And moving on to our half-hour line, and we'll go into, I suppose, a bit of detail on that, because, you know, you've Sean Neary named as centre forward, and with Conor Walsh and Adrian Prendergast either side, and you know, we're not saying it's going to happen for sure, but you'd be reckoning maybe Sean Neary is going to drop back as the sweeper, as you've seen with Jeff Linsky teams so often before, and obviously we know he played that role, such huge effect for Castlegar earlier on the year in the senior championship. So it seems the most logical thing that's going to happen. With the two lads either side, two lads I'm really excited to see. You know, Adrian Prendergast didn't have a minor inter-county career, but since they won the Senior B All Ireland with Rayfields, he was captain that day. He's gone to another level, and he's a huge physical presence, and, you know, a great pace, great athleticism, and brilliant striking. So I think he's definitely one for the future, and one I'm really excited to see. And obviously with Conor Walsh, you know, named in the club All-Star Team of the Year, very impressive for Turloughmore, and has been part of the senior setup now with Galway as well. So you'll be expecting big things from him, and leadership out of him, like, and, you know, he needs to kind of dominate at this level really if he's to go on and have a career in senior inter-county, you know. So, and the inside line as well, you have Oisín Flannery, obviously from St Thomas's, John Fleming, Meelick-Eyrecourt, and Donal O'Shea, Salthill-Knocknacarra. So you'll be one of them to most likely go out. I'd imagine Flannery will stay inside based on, you know, the club form he's shown, and that he just looks an out and out corner forward, doesn't he? Maybe John Fleming to go out as another ball winner out there and leave the two inside. But, you know, certainly it looks as though Neary is probably going to drop back, and equally, if he does go back, as we mentioned earlier, gives the likes of Kilcommins the license to fly forward and be a threat going forward as well.
Yeah, or there is with Neary, in terms of Neary dropping back, there is the chance he could just go as a third midfielder as well. You know, whereas he might operate a bit deeper. Say, if they do get over the line and play Kilkenny, you'd imagine he would probably offer a bit more protection there. I can see him being a bit more advanced this time. The game should play out in that kind of sense for him. You know, just he's a phenomenal ball player. He's like the role that he was used with Castle this year. He was just, you know, one of the first targets for a puck out, we'll say, you know, well able to carry ball, excellent striker, and he's developed physically as well, hasn't he? He's really come on since his minor years now. Conor Walsh, just physically, he looks close to a senior hurler already. You know, he's not far he's not far off a senior county, inter-county hurler, should I say. Physical wise, probably the club campaign would have been huge for him. He would have come in with massive confidence. He got some huge scores. I think he got an important goal. Was it against Sarsfields today as well? A huge goal. And on air and on frees, like he'd probably be the free taker, I'd say, rather than Donal O'Shea, you'd imagine. It's hard to know.
So,
yeah, it's definitely between those two anyway, we'll say. So maybe there's a case for one taking closer to goal, one a bit further out. I don't know, or you probably just keep it with the one maybe. Prendergast, you touched on it there, that Rayfields All Ireland. It was the first day I ever saw him in the flesh as well, and like, how could you not be impressed with him? And like, he was so important for Cropwell this year. And arguably, if Cropwell got over a Haskell that day, I know they fell with a bit of misfortune. They were hit late. Like, Cropwell could have maybe gone a bit further in the championship than then they might have put it up to maybe Cappy a small bit better. Like, that's no disrespect to Haskell at all. Like, they were full value for their win, but maybe Cropwell on their day when everything was going right for them, they probably have that bit more tools maybe to hurt you from combine the overall 15. But yeah, what a player! What a line in the field that is. Like, if it's going to line out anything like that, maybe we just see Orthodox. I really don't know. Like, maybe we just see an Orthodox 15. We just don't know. But Neary's one is an interesting one. You would have expected them to be anywhere from midfield to the half back line. So to see him at centre forward is an unusual one where he's named. Inside, sure, Oisín Flannery, like, probably another player on the club team of the year this year. And what did he score? I think 214 or something like that from play over the championship. Like, phenomenal scoring from a lad that's 18, 19 years of age. I think he doing his leaving cert this year as well. I'm not even sure. Like, so huge potential there. Like, very capable ball winner as well. Despite his size and stature, like, he's holding off, like, between himself and Donal O'Shea. Like, they're probably holding off some huge players coming behind them there. You touched on your Mark Kennedys or your Paddy Cumminses, or there's even Sean McDonough there. Like, I heard about Sean McDonough in terms of the bench. I heard he was probably, like, I think they played a 15 on 15 last weekend in a challenge game, and I think he was supposed to be one of the best players in the field. Like, so just tells you, and we all seen what he did last year, just the phenomenal talent he has. Such an exciting team. John Fleming was full forward last year. I know he might have come out for a bit, but it's probably a year. He's a huge physical man as well. Like, for this age category, he's well able to huge engine. He kind of operates a bit further out the field for Meelick-Eyrecourt anytime I've seen him. So yeah, last year's experience would have stood to him as well. It's just a fierce, exciting team, Patrick, isn't it? Really, like, it's hard not to be really looking forward to it. This competition, and it's great. It shortens the Christmas for us, if nothing else, as well.
No, that's for sure. Yeah, and like, John Fleming was one of the few lads that really stood up and performed well against Kilkenny last year, and like, that inside line, like, and Oisín Flannery, for me, he's proved himself as an out corner forward now, and he's one, not the biggest man by any means, but who's today he's finished growing. Yes, he's only, as you say, 18, 19, did his leaving cert this year. So he's definitely there's 3 or 4 right good prospects in that attack going forward for the county. And looking at the bench too, no shortage of talent here either. Paddy Rabbis, the sub goalie, and Cayman Killeen, who was an outstanding defender for Loughrea this year, made our team of the week a couple of times. And you would have expected him to be a nailed on starter on this team, but obviously hasn't worked that way, and just goes to show how competitive it is. Conor Flaherty from Carnmore, obviously we know how impressive he's been for Carnmore the last couple of years, was the main reason they won the minor A last year, and obviously with the intermediates this year too was a huge presence. And as well as that, the added caveat of being the under-20 football goalkeeper, has not earned final to prepare for in a couple of weeks' time. So as well as that, you've Owen Lawless, TJ Brennan, Mark Gill there, you're added cover in the back. Mark Gill, full back on the team last year, can't make it this year. Again, goes to show the strength and depth that they have. And then in attack, you'll have Sean McDonough, Mark Kennedy and Paddy Cummins. Mark Kennedy, obviously corner forward on the team last year, as we mentioned. But huge talent and huge impact to come in, and you'd imagine, like, you'd be expecting that this game would be kind of, to be fair, a nice bit in it after maybe 40 minutes or that, and you'll get to see a lot of these players, and they'll all get a chance to, well, 5 or 6 of them will get a chance to stake a claim anyhow for next week, because there's no way Jeff Linsky is 100% sure that this is his best team. It's kind of this week that a lot of lads will put the hand up and maybe you'd imagine there will probably be changes for next week based on what lads come in and do off the bench, or equally what lads don't do that are starting. So, hugely exciting, obviously. And the leaders on the team, you obviously the senior inter-county lads are going to be huge players in that regard. Darach, TJ, Conor, Walsh, and Kilcommins. But for yourself, we kind of touched on a few. I touched on a couple of lads in attack. Like Conor Walsh, Prendergast, Fleming, Flannery. They're all serious live prospects, even for next year. In a Galway senior setup, are there any other names that kind of stand out to you in that regard that could be getting a call up even next year based on what they do here over the next few weeks?
Yeah, well, there probably would be, maybe not next year because there's so many lads involved next year in terms of the starting lineup with 9. Maybe maybe even like get a run in the Walsh Cup or something like that. But in terms of making the breakthrough, it would probably be another year in their development before they actually probably do really make a significant step up. Because we've just seen from the lads that are actually probably involved with the senior setup, physically they're probably a bit further on than the rest of the lads, the truth be told, aren't they really? Like, you look at Darach, Fahy, TJ Brennan, Kilcommins, Conor Walsh, they're all probably the closest physically specimens in terms of being a senior hurler. There's probably a few boys that have probably bit of gym work to do, still growing obviously as well, because we forget it's not 121 anymore either, it's under 20, so that year can make a huge difference in it, so it's probably even harder now to make it at this age group at the senior panel than it ever was, when it was under 21. Just in terms of one aspect, I kind of picked up, like I suppose there's 14 different clubs represented in the starting team, and 17 clubs over the 24 at all. Like it's a huge spread, and just shows the talent we have in Galway, across a huge variety of clubs, and there's other clubs as well that have panel members that aren't listed as well. So there's a huge representation, a body of players there that it's no longer say you're picking out the under 21 winners from last year, or what I mean, like, or your under 20 winners or minor winners from last year. There's a huge body, like say Cairnmore won minor last year. They have one representative on this year's panel. Yeah. Like it's phenomenal, really. Just in terms of the whole squad, there's plenty of lads there that you like. I couldn't see any reason why any of these lads couldn't be pushing for a senior jersey in the future if they kept their upward trajectory going. We'll say, like, we touched on there. Like, I'd say Ian McGlynn is probably, like, I know it's very early to say, but he's probably a shoe-in to hurl senior for Galway, given the player he is, and I'd be very surprised down the line. Now, you never know what can happen with injuries and touch wood and all that, but he'd be a player that you'd be definitely earmarking, that you'd definitely see hurling for Galway in the future. Like Alex Connaire, Neary, Prendergast, Flannery, there's huge lads there, like, Jason O'Donoghue, like a very athletic player as well. You wouldn't be surprised to see him, putting on a maroon shirt in Galway for the Galway seniors down the line either. I really look forward to the weekend now. I suppose that we just what we were touching on there before, and it's a nice trial run as well. Like, there's, with no disrespect to Laois, like, and there's no point saying otherwise. Like, if Galway are to have a chance of winning All Ireland there this year, they probably should be winning this comprehensively. Pulling up, but we should be looking at the squad members really, because, like, Laois at this level probably wouldn't be within touching distance of Galway. Like, how many of these Galway players have All Ireland minor medals? I nearly say 90% of them, nearly them all, would they? I wouldn't be surprised, as you mean, like, so it's, they're winners the whole way up, and we've seen, like, we're starved of success at under 20 and under 21 level in Galway, and we see what it's done for Clare, Waterford, Limerick, these groups. Like, if you could have a successful under 21 or under 20 team in the next 2 years, you'd never know what it could lead to at senior level.
No, definitely no. And I think, we kind of, looking back at that under 17 team from 3 years ago, it shows that it doesn't necessarily translate even in those 3 years from under 17 or 18 to under 20 or 21. But in saying that, when you're having such success, like we're having the last couple of years, it just has to translate over at some point, as I mentioned, like, when you're having, and at this stage it's become just total dominance at minor level, be it under 18 changed to under 17, it made absolutely no difference. They won the couple since, so you've won 3-4 minors in a row here now, and you simply have to put it up at under 20 level now. You have to start winning All Ireland at that level, because it's 2011 since you won that, and in reality, you go back through that under 21 team 2011. That team really did make up, plus the minor team of that year. That's what's created the 2017 All-Ireland winning team. Like, make no claims about it. Like, so it's crucial that you have, success at this level, and especially obviously that the whole being in Leinster now was a huge boost in that. Even if we'll say maybe they don't win an All-Ireland, but they get to an All-Ireland, they've at least played 3 or 4 games at the top level, and they've gotten proper exposure rather than winning a semi-final some years and losing a final, or it's losing All Ireland semi-final straight away, and your whole under 21 campaign is over after 60 minutes. Like, what good was that to our senior team, really, in reality? Like, lads who made it out of that team were just going to do it irrespective of the under 21, whereas now at least it can be used as a proper stepping stone for players to go through, and hopefully this will develop players rather than just being a game, like, you'll be hoping lads will grow and improve off the back of this, and then drive on hopefully to senior level over the next couple of years. So crucial, obviously, that you'd expect to win this weekend, but not only that they go on and beat Kilkenny next Friday night, and drive on from there, and hopefully have a good run in the championship. And more than that, like this, we were streets ahead in minor for the last 3 or 4 years. So there's no reason there shouldn't be streets ahead at under 20 level. So I think if you don't win not Ireland with this team, it'll be hugely disappointing, to be honest.
Yeah, you'd imagine so. Or even, probably the massive benefit, even without winning an All-Ireland, even if you didn't get silverware, but even making a final, we'll say, would be the actual games these lads are getting into their legs at the inter-county level. You'd wonder, it's one thing about it, it's probably a different time of year, for hurling under 20. Like, I know it's normally autumn and stuff like that, but the pitches will be very heavy now at this time of year as well. So it'll be interesting to see how Galway stand out. I suppose one thing, we're a young team in that sense, which could be problematic if we were looking for drawbacks in terms of there's no shortage of skill or hurling or winning experience or whatever, but maybe physically we just don't know what the other teams like Guinea are going to bring to the table, because we haven't heard much about them. They haven't lined out or anything like that, so or who's even involved. But I'd agree with you. I think we have to win an under 20 competition in the next 2 years, 3 years anyway, with the last groups that are coming, with the groups that have been coming through. I don't see any reason why this team wouldn't be capable of it, given what they've done at minor level and at current club level as well. I suppose this year, one other one, I suppose, just a caveat as well, would be the fact that it's a very disjointed kind of season, so we really don't know, like, if preparation has been as good as it can be. We'll say, that would be a worry as well. Would be the only thing that you'd have to keep an eye on. But the talent is there, the players are there. Please God, this is a year where we can end this, because this is it's a fairly substantial drought in terms of an All-Ireland winning, at under 20 level or under 20 or under 21 level for Galway. So please God, we can put it right this year.
Absolutely, yeah. I think, look, we'll leave it there for tonight, because we don't, in terms of previewing the actual game, we've not a lot to preview, because we don't have a lot to go on in terms of, we don't know what Laois are going to be like. We don't even know what Galway are going to be like, really. It's kind of, hopefully we'll get a good gauge on what they're going to bring Friday night, and please God, you'll be expecting a preview of the Kilkenny game to come next week. But just before we finish up, obviously a huge weekend for the Camogie team, playing the All-Ireland final again Saturday night. So I think, David, you join me in obviously wishing the girls the best of luck, and the management, and from our perspective, they're a hugely accommodating group in terms of getting interviews and being a great help for local papers. They also have plenty of time for us, and in fairness, anything we look for in terms of getting individual interviews or whatnot, they're hugely accommodating and hugely helpful for us. So a lovely group, be it both management and players. So certainly you'd be hoping that they can go up and do the business again Saturday night. And based on what we've seen, obviously a huge, even since last year, they've gone up leaps and bounds in my eyes in terms of squad depth, and in their strength and condition even has gone to another level again. And you'd be hoping that certainly if they do play like they can Saturday night, I couldn't see them being beaten, and you'd be hoping that they will be bringing, well, provided they're allowed, bring it back west to Shannon, the O'Duffy Cup back again, Saturday night or Sunday rather, whenever they're due back to us.
Absolutely. It's you touched on it there. Squad depth this year has just gone to another level. They're definitely probably a stronger squad than last year. Looking on paper at least, and we've seen great new additions as well. Like say you have the likes of Siobhan Gardner back there at 6 now, and you have Orla McGrath back, and you have 2 sisters involved in the squad as well. Like there's some serious additions to the Galway squad there overall, and they're. I'd agree with you completely. If they perform to their potential, I can't see them be beaten, to be honest with you. Robbie Lane, the job he's done, and even Colin Murray, just in terms of strength, condition and organisation, and they've probably gone to another level in terms of professionalism for Camogie and Galway as well. And it's no coincidence that they probably are the best team in Ireland at the moment. Like, and they probably just need to copper fasten it now with the weekend, and we'll first ever back to back as well. You'd hope everything goes well. Like we haven't seen a whole pile of them this year in the flesh. Like we got to see them last weekend on telly, which was great initiative by RT to show the semi-final live, and you'd be hoping for more of that in the future, because the quality of the games is top notch, and even if the weather isn't the best at the moment, we've all seen humdinger games, like when you think about it, like the Cork semi-final last year, and even the Kilkenny, the performance they delivered in the All-Ireland final was incredible too. So please God, like I think Kilkenny are down a couple of All-Stars this year, and as well. So I don't know if they're at the same level. Maybe the players like Kilkenny are probably a conveyor belt of talent coming through. So maybe that mightn't be the case either. But it's one definitely that we're looking forward to. I'm actually getting to go to it myself. So great privilege to be there in All Ireland final day as well. So please God, we can record first ever back to back. You know what I mean? And it would be a huge boost to the county, and great for younger girls looking at it. To see what see their idols up on telly, as we'll say. There's people like there, like I would readily just like say or a word on say someone like Tara Kinney, huge, terrible last year, stricken, tore a cruciate for a few days out from the All Ireland finals, forced to watch on missed county finals, All Ireland finals for her club as well. I had the privilege to speak to her last May, I think, and it was rare to get back. She was nearly reported for first fitness, so to see her, it's great for someone like her who missed out last year, and I'm sure she'll be going, hell for leather and trying to get back, trying to bring back, get her hands on an Ireland title as well. So please God, and I echo your sentiments. Best of luck to them, and please God, they're lifting the OJFE Cup at least. Whether they get to bring it back or not is another question. But I'd say they won't mind too much, provided they get to lift it in the Hogan stand for finish.
That's a fact. Well, look, we'll leave it there for this week. Brilliant weekend again of television to look forward to. Two Galway teams in action over the next kind of 48 hours or so. So hope you enjoyed it all, and we'll be back again next week. There's no Christmas off for us, so just so we like it, I suppose. But enjoy. Hope you all enjoyed the weekend, enjoyed the games, and please God, we've two wins to report next weekend. So all the best, and chat to you soon.